Master Ip, I have come to learn from you. No, that is not a challenge. I don't understand why everybody feels like they have to challenge you to make you prove that you're a good teacher. I know what your fists are capable of. We're good there.
You can pay my school fees now, right?
What was that? Welcome to Durbania, I'm Durbin, and this is my ranking of all 4 Ip Man movies worst to best. I say all 4 and not 5 because I'm not going to include Master Z in this ranking for 2 reasons. One, as of recording this, I still haven't seen it yet. And reason number 2, it's a spin-off. And what I want to rank is all 4 Donnie Yen-led Ip Man movies worst to best. The 4th one just dropped on Netflix, which is what prompted this ranking, and it was so good that it made this ranking really difficult for me to do. But I got a ranking put together, and I'm excited to share that with you. How would you rank all 4 Ip Man movies worst to best? Let's talk about that in the comments. Number 4, Ip Man 3. Now let me say this right out of the gate. Donnie Yen is consistently great in all 4 of these Ip Man movies. He's a great martial artist, incredibly fast and powerful, very entertaining to watch, but I also love what he brings to the character of Ip Man. My favorite thing that he brings is just the show of what gentleness, meekness, and humility actually looks like, and it doesn't look like a doormat, because the consistent theme of all 4 movies is arrogance versus humility, and he really does a great job showing the true flexibility and power and humility. And so I really like that about his performance. The other thing that I really like about his performance is you really get that tension in all 4 movies where he truly and dearly loves his family, but sometimes he puts martial arts first. So they do a really good job with that, and Donnie Yen does a great job portraying that. Now, when it comes to the movie itself and why it's here in my last place, probably because the whole Mike Tyson fight is probably the weakest point for me. I'm not saying it isn't cool. It is cool to see Donnie Yen versus Mike Tyson, this little dude facing this big dude that's got a lot of strength and power. But we did already see Ip Man face a boxer in Ip Man 2. The build up to that and the payoff was incredible, and I don't feel like we got the same payoff in this movie when he finally fought Mike Tyson. And this dude right here,
詠春張天志
man, there were times I loved that character, there were times I hated that character, and then hated him again and loved him again. So because of that, I really do want to check out Master Z. I thought he did a great job in this movie. And the part that was hard for me to watch, but because it was so well done, is where you have Ip Man's wife dying of cancer. Like, that was really difficult, but you really saw the beginning of this movie where he missed dance classes with her because he put martial arts first. But when they're going through this struggle, how he put martial arts way last and put her way above everything else, to the point that where Chung insults Ip Man's reputation and challenges him to a duel, and Ip Man doesn't show up because he's dancing with his wife. And I really love this last line Ip Man says after the challenge.
其實最重要嘅，始終都係你身邊嘅人。
Number 3, Ip Man. I think what I loved about Ip Man is this discouragement that he ends up facing and then ends up overcoming. So before the Japanese invade, life is good. He's incredibly rich, they got a big mansion, and he likes, you know, having private matches and duels, but he doesn't really want to take on students. And yeah, he does struggle putting his family above martial arts, but he does truly and dearly love his family. Then the Japanese invade, and they're forced into poverty. And he does begin to put his family above martial arts and really connect with them in a brand new way, which is incredible. But he also faces this incredible discouragement, where during this time he's like, yeah, I know martial arts. So what? In light of all of this real world stuff that's going on, what is that? And I can relate to that. I don't know about you. And so what is so inspiring about this movie is him finding the worth in the gift that he has, especially when you have that incredibly arrogant Japanese general that wants to prove that Japanese martial arts is way better than Chinese martial arts. And so he has all those private matches. And when Ip Man loses 2 friends in those matches, which means those friends' family have lost the provider of their homes, like, he just feels that rage, and he realizes he needs to step out and fight for what's right. And when he steps out and says, let me take on 10 men, That scene is incredible because of the emotion that led up to that moment where he stepped out and he did that. Also, it's cool when he takes on those 10 men in this movie, because most movies like this, what will happen is one will attack the good guy while the other 9 extras kind of stand in the back and wait their turn to fight. No, this time you see several people attacking Ip Man at once, and he just mops the floor with all 10 of them. And it's kind of a gruesome fight. So if you have a weak stomach, just know that. But that fight is incredibly intense because the emotion that led up to it as he's realizing the value of the gift that is inside of him. And then he gave money to his buddy for that cotton mill, and when that mill gets attacked, he realizes the value of the gift he has when he shares it, and he takes the factory workers on as students to teach them all how to defend themselves. And then finally at the end, when he has to face that general, I love that the general's right-hand man says, if you don't throw the match, I'll shoot you. He doesn't debate about what to do. He fights the general and he wins, because it's not about his pride and his prowess, but it's about inspiring his people. So that's what I really enjoyed about watching the first Ip Man. Number 2, Ip Man 4, the finale. I really did enjoy this movie. The first and fun part of this movie was finally seeing Bruce Lee. We got the Bruce Lee after he was trained by Ip Man, and we got this awesome fight in the alley. Both the actors did such a great job in this fight, so well choreographed. It was just really cool to finally get that payoff, and they did a really good job with that. But what made this movie so powerful is you really did see arrogance versus humility in this world, where you saw the Chinese immigrating over to America because the grass is greener, better opportunities, but they came to San Francisco, moved into Chinatown, and found a lot of racism, to the point that they said, fine, we will not teach Kung Fu to anybody that is not Chinese. And then they didn't like Bruce Lee because he didn't go along with that, even publishing a Kung Fu book in English. And so Ip Man, coming to America on an invitation from Bruce Lee and to look for a school for his son, comes to America, and they try to get him to join them on that side, and he's like, no, Kung Fu should be for anybody who wants to learn it. And so you have that tension even with Ip Man as he comes to America in this movie. But then you have these 2 arrogant characters. You got the karate guy, Colin. Oh, Colin. And that dude was a jerk, especially when the karate demonstration came to the Autumn Festival uninvited, stepped up on that stage when they weren't scheduled, challenged all of the Kung Fu masters. They broke some bricks to show their power and superiority, and it's the arrogance. See, part of the theme of these movies is it's not that one fight form is any better than the other. Everybody has dignity. All these fight forms are fine, but it's the man, it's the fighter, it's the heart of the person that is using the form. And so these people were so unbelievably arrogant, I wanted Ip Man to step up there and freaking wipe the floor with their faces. Did I get it? Yes, but I also got this extra added tension. The fact that he was diagnosed with cancer kind of added this whole other tension of, oh my gosh, he's weaker now. So is he going to fail? Or is he going to win? He wins every fight he comes against. Is this going to be too much for him? There were a couple places in that Autumn Festival when he was fighting that arrogant karate guy that I thought, is he actually going to lose? But no, he wiped the floor with that karate guy, and I was just even more on my feet and cheering because that dude was so arrogant. But then you have the sergeant. He was the biggest, most racist, arrogant jerk face. He made me so mad, he made this vein throb. Turned out he was a darn good fighter, and I was not expecting, like that first time when he busted out those moves, I was not expecting him to be that good. But he was flipping good. So again, when him and Ip Man come up against each other, I mean, I'm expecting Ip Man to mop the floor with this dude and put the guy in his place, and they did such a good job of making me dislike him that I really could not wait for Ip Man to take this guy down. And again, because of the cancer, I was like, will he win this fight? Will he lose this fight? And I loved it when he, again, mopped the floor with that dude's face. This fight, a bit more of a challenge, but it was incredible. And again, what I really like about this is seeing meekness and humility, the strength and power of that amplified. Because he's not fighting this guy, like I said, just to beat the snot out of him or wipe the floor with his face or anything like that. He's not fighting to satisfy his own ego. He's doing it because he wants to stand up for what's right. Why else would he learn martial arts? And so I think this movie does a very good job of carrying on that theme of the flexibility and power of meekness and humility. In here at number 1, Ip Man 2, Legend of the Grandmaster. This is in my number 1 spot because over the years, it's proven to be my favorite, both for story and just going back to rewatch a lot of great kung fu scenes. It's just one I keep going back to, so I couldn't help but put it here at number 1. And of course, one of the things that I love about Ip Man 2, and you guessed it, is it shows the full strength and power of humility and meekness. But this time it shows you that strength and power in the face of unfairness, when life is just completely unfair. He's coming to Hong Kong with his family. They don't have money, so he's trying to open a school to make some money. His students get into a brawl, so he loses the rooftop where he's teaching them. And then he finds out that in order to be able to teach in Hong Kong, he's got to present himself before the masters and prove himself, which is one of my absolute favorite scenes, when he and the masters are fighting on that table and they have to stay on the table. And I love it when Master Hung jumps up there and they just fight and their fists are going at each other at like 1,000,000 miles per hour. It's so awesome. And then completely unfair at the end when Master Hung says, "Good, Master Ip, don't forget your $100 monthly fees." What? I mean, he's just struggling to make ends meet and you're tacking that on there? He could have been enemies with Hung. Instead, in a relatively short time, the movie does a really good job building up their friendship. Again, because Ip Man is just such a humble and good dude, he can't help but break down those walls. And then when the British boxer Twister comes and he wants to prove Western boxing is better than Chinese martial arts, and he has no respect whatsoever for martial arts or the Chinese people. This guy came in as a complete arrogant jerk. And in a fight with Hung, he killed Hung. Completely unfair. Even more unfair, he goes to apologize for killing the guy, and his apology is something to the effect of, "Yeah, well, I am sorry that I'm so strong and he's so weak, and he died at my powerful fist, but, you know, I'll challenge anybody else fairly and kill them as well." I mean, and he's laughing the entire time he's delivering this apology. And so when Ip Man challenges him to a fight, it's not something out of pride. In fact, the end of the fight reveals the whole truth why he did it. Once Ip Man wins the fight, he stands up and he says, "I'm fighting not to prove martial arts is better than Western boxing. I'm fighting to show that we all have dignity and should be treated with dignity." And so it was very cool, the reason that he even chose to fight. And even in the face of unfairness in the fight, he met it with grace. I'm sure he was ticked off when the bell rang and he got sucker punched by Twister. It was illegal, and Twister wasn't penalized. No, Ip Man was penalized for using his feet. It's part of martial arts. If you want to have Western boxing up against Chinese martial arts, you gotta let them both use their full art form. But they penalized Ip Man and took his legs out from under him, almost quite literally. And you know what he did? Accidentally kicked one time, but it was an accident. And he didn't complain. He fought with his fist, and he flippin' won the fight. So I really like this movie because the fighting is amazing. Donnie Yen does a great job in this movie, and I just love the message. In the face of unfairness, the true strength and power of being humble, meek, and gentle. And so you see, it's not about being a doormat. When he stood up and fought, he didn't just fight for the right thing, he fought for the right thing for all the right reasons and in the right way. So it was incredibly powerful, and it's one of my favorite movies to go back to. Now, your turn. How would you go through and rank all these movies worst to best? Let's talk about that in the comments. While you're there, hit the subscribe button to become a Durbanian and hit that bell by the subscribe button so you're notified the next time I do a video like this, like my 31 on 31 coming up here on July 31st, ranking all 8 DCEU movies and all 23 MCU movies. It is going to be awesome, ranking them together. Yeah. So hit that subscribe button and that bell so you're notified when that drops. I'm Durbin. Thanks for checking out Durbania.